Welcome to the commentary booth, where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play-by-play commentator Jamie Upps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by an impact fee technician who lists their favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street and favourite TV show as Golden Girls. Welcome back to the show, Corrina Mabey.
Hello. How's it going?
You're strange.
I'm a fucking mess. It's like a hurricane outside, and it's not even a hurricane.
Oh boy, that's not great.
It's been like this, I don't know, for a week. It's cool. It's whatever.
Oh, you can have hurricanes and we'll just have middle of winter bushfires. We're even.
I mean, it's fine. We're just both catastrophic events on each side of the world now.
Mm-hmm.
Fun times.
So, this week, we're going to dive into dystopian futures with Season 6 of Black Mirror. Do you want to sort of run through your history with the series before we dive into this season?
I have no history with the series. Yay! Go me! I've watched maybe 4 episodes of this entire series in general. I was under when I first heard about Black Mirror, I did not realize it was like a anthology series or whatever you want to call it, where each story was a different kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just progressively the same storyline. So when I watched the first episode of the very first season, and then I watched the second episode, I was very confused and angry.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they're very different.
Very different, and so I never watched it again. And then you go, hey, Black Mirror's coming on, and I go, that's cool, have fun with that. And yeah, and you volunteered me to do this with you, so I was like, I guess I've got homework to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I love Black Mirror. Not so much recently. Like, when this first started as like a British produced show, I think that's when it was at its peak. Like, it was fantastic in those first couple of seasons, but has slowly sort of dropped off, particularly after, I think it was season 4, where it moved to become a Netflix produced show. And that's when it sort of started to get a little bit more, obviously more budget, but like then it was also had different storylines, like it was exploring different genres, and specifically in this later season, it's very different to what you expect from a Black Mirror season.
Yeah, I was thrown off too, because the 2 episodes that I did watch of Black Mirror were both like British, and so everything that I heard about up until recently was that it was all British like shows and stuff like that. And so when I was watching this new season and there was like nothing but like American actors, I was like, wait a second, what happened? Like, this is weird.
Yep.
Like, when what?
Yeah, I don't so much mind that like the stories are now American stories, but it's just British produced TV and stories is very different to US stories and writing.
It happen a lot.
Like, you look at The Office with the two versions of that, very different.
Being Human was another one, I think it was. That was like a UK show, and then they made it over to the US show, and they were like really oddly different. And just not the same.
Like, this season was fine, but it definitely didn't have the same feeling as I expected. Like, previous seasons have been very sci-fi in terms of it's a dystopian future, but it's kind of what happens when technology runs amok, whereas this season definitely explored other genres and a lot more like horror tropes as well.
Yeah, it was really hard to pick out a theme for this. I know that usually each season has like a underlining theme where like they all kind of tie in together. But for me, like, it was kind of hard to pick out just like one way that they were going or one cohesive theme between all of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, that's how I felt. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, like the series' original creator Charlie Brooker has commented saying he intentionally didn't like mean for the Black Mirror to be the technology is evil or fucked up, but it's the show was supposed to be how fucked up people and humans are. They cause all the chaos, not so much technology. But I think, like, you look back at those first 2-3 seasons, they were all sort of tech based, so I can see why people sort of got that impression that it was this is the dangers of technology running afoul of the world.
Yeah, and like how the more we progress, the more at risk we are for, you know, ridiculous things happening.
And with this new season, he's also come out and said, we're supposed to consider each episode of season 6 as an episode of a Streamberry show, the streaming service that's within the first episode.
That makes sense.
Because he wrote this season with the idea of wanting to refresh or reset Black Mirror itself so that it isn't so much these dystopian sci-fi tech stories, but like it has the ability to be lots of different stories because he feels it should continually reinvent itself and be a way to explore standalone stories, whereas before it kind of always was that tech theme.
Yeah, and I think it's good to like maybe because there's been so many seasons of this show and because it's gained so much popularity, I think it's good to probably take like a step back almost and like go back to like a drawing board. So it's good to kind of be able to hit a refresh and just have like a season that's completely out of whack compared to what like you normally do.
I think my one issue with them exploring like this horror angle that they went with in this season is we kind of already have shows like that. Like we have Twilight Zone that came back for a little while, and we have American Horror Story, which is kind of the same. Like it's just individual seasons telling horror stories.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
And
I don't know if they
all over
kind
the
of
place.
hit the mark with this season because they have that competition, whereas when they were tech focused, they were really the only show sort of doing that.
Yeah, and now it's kind of like they're falling into the same kind of genre as what, and I get it because there's such like a wide call for those kind of shows. Like everybody's into either true crime or, you know, like the horror franchise and stuff like that. It's just caught on right now. But I really do, like, I do appreciate the fact that they were the only ones doing like a tech-based kind of thing, and now they're kind of just falling too, which is kind of weird.
Yep. And in terms of season 6, what did you think of the season before we dive in and break down sort of each episode?
It was decent. Like, I honestly prefer the episodes that I'd seen before. Like, I watched like 2 episodes from season 1 and I think 1 or 2 from season 2, and then I watched the Miley Cyrus episode just because I'm a Miley stan.
That's not a bad episode, actually.
It's actually, no, it wasn't. I was really happy with it. So, I mean, in terms of like the ones that I've previously seen, it's not that this season was bad. I just don't think that it had a lot of hits for me.
Mm.
I really, like, there was only 1 or 2 episodes I really, really enjoyed from this particular season out of the 5 or, what is it?
5.
6, something like that. Okay.
Yeah, there was definitely more misses than hits for me in this season.
Yeah.
I thought it started incredibly strong with the first 2 episodes, which were wildly different in terms of the style of the story, but as it progressed it just kind of lost its way a little bit, and especially in terms of losing that Black Mirror feeling for me.
Mm-hmm.
Was kind of disappointing. And like Charlie said, each episode should be considered a episode from a Streamberry show. I don't think they conveyed that in the stories themselves. Like, after episode 1, they perfectly set up a perfect like explanation for all of these stories being so different and being like horror themed with that computer thing.
Yeah.
But they never mention that in any other episode. It's like, if they just mentioned that in other episodes, it would have tied them all together and made the whole season feel a little bit more cohesive and made you realize that, oh, these are episodes from Streamberry, which only episode 1 and 2 do that.
Yeah. It was really strange. I guess you really have to pay attention to like episode 1 to see what's going on with it, and I guess maybe figure that out.
I went back.
Kinda.
I went back
It's a
and
stretch.
paused it on the Streamberry screens, and only one of these ties in.
Oh, well.
So I was like, well, that's dumb. Like, if all
I
of
was
these
hoping
other
for
episode
something.
titles had been on her home screen when she's scrolling through Streamberry,
Or anyone for that matter when they're scrolling
yeah,
through
it
on
would have
any
been
other
okay. Cool,
screen.
that makes sense. But no, they're not.
None. Damn.
So
I was really
Like-
hoping for that.
initially, that was the idea that I got from episodes 1 and 2, that the running theme was going to be Netflix sort of being a bit self-deprecating and sort of joking about themselves, but that theme was lost by episode 3.
Even if they had just started each episode with like the S for Streamberry instead of like the N for Netflix,
Yeah,
like that would have been really fun had they done that with the other episodes, just moving forward like Streamberry, something stupid like that. Just a hint that you were like watching something that we were still in that Black Mirror universe, but it was just part of this whole season.
yeah, like just sub out the Netflix opening card and put the Streamberry one in. You'd be like,
And
oh,
put Streamberry.
okay, I'm watching a Streamberry show. I'm not watching a Netflix show anymore.
Yeah. Just a little thing.
And that would have been such a small, easy thing to do that would have made the season so much better.
Yeah, it's like I said, like just the little, tiny little touches. Like, it's not that I hated it or anything like that. Like, I give them kudos for getting there was a lot of like big named people in this entire season. So they did really well at that. I just feel like they kind of could have done a little bit more to keep everything like together.
Yeah, like they are anthology stories, but they probably should all feel they are consistent for that one season.
Yeah.
So now diving into sort of the individual episodes, the season begins. Episode 1, Joan is Awful, starring Annie Murphy, Salma Hayek, and a surprise cameo towards the end. This is a spoiler. Michael Cera pops up. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, just random. Just, oh, hey, how's it going, guys? What's going on? I'm just the cool techie guy. Don't mind me.
So yeah, this episode was all about sort of the perils of blindly accepting terms of service when you sign up for any sort of like streaming service,
Cell phone provider, anything.
yeah, cell phone,
App on your phone.
social media, games, and everything.
Yeah.
Like big tech knows everything about everyone. They're always watching, always listening. I thought that was very interesting. That was a great sort of storyline to explore.
Yeah, it was really fun because if you think about it, like who honestly reads the terms and conditions of like anything, unless it's something big, like when I purchased my house or when I got my car. Like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna read that paperwork. But when it comes to just like putting an app on my phone, whatever, cool. You want access to my camera? Go for it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, like I literally watched this episode like 3 hours after scrolling through a massive long terms of service for the F1 23 game. Just literally
Yeah.
held down on the sticks until it got to the bottom so I could click yes.
Yeah. It's so fun. I just did that with Diablo the other day. I was just like, oh yeah, terms and conditions.
And then this episode came on, I was like, oh, okay, what did I just accept?
Yeah. It makes you really think, like, oh crap, did I?
Yeah, very fun.
It's weird.
And I also thought this episode was a fun commentary on the sort of trend with multiverses in all sorts of various media at the moment as well. Like, that was very funny.
Yeah, it was. It was just like I'm watching a show on a streaming service, and she's watching a show on the streaming service, and it's her life. And then also in the streaming service show, she's watching it too. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I had to really think back of that.
it got like very meta as this episode went on. There was the episode we're watching, but within that episode there was another episode, which then later turns out that the original life that we're watching was an episode within the episode as well. And it's just like it was like 3 layers of episode within episode. I was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, I was just like, oh my god, I stepped into quantum mania, literally. I'm just like, where's all the multiverses and shit?
Yeah. Like, and like we said, Streamberry equals Netflix. There was another sort of jokey parody as well with, in this episode, they're talking about developing a Gacy series for Streamberry, which was
Yeah.
definitely a play on the Dharma series. And I actually think Netflix might be doing a Gacy series as well.
From what I heard, they were supposed to, because there was such a big success with Dahmer, that they were exploring other serial killers too for those. So I'm personally excited about that. Just hopefully that happens, because got nothing else going with that kind of stuff right now.
Some of the other parodies they had in there as well were her workplace was definitely like Google or Apple, like a parody of those.
Something like that. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Like such a large glass building where like everybody's on edge all the time and stuff, and it's got like the huge kitchen and stuff.
And like the fact that within like the opening 10 minutes she's firing a woman who's developing some sort of tech service. I was like, that's very Google. Like, oh, it didn't hit immediately, so let's scrap it and get rid of anyone that worked on it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just crazy. And then to watch like her like get home and like completely just like start having a meltdown as she's trying to unwind, like what am I watching right now? And it's just such a, she's like, I'm not like that, I don't act like that, that's not me, you know. So it's very interesting to see like the interpretations.
And the fact that she knew she was up to some shady business as well. She's like, uh-oh, is that going to be in the show?
Fuck, like knock this out, let's stop watching this now, honey, we don't need to go any further, it's upsetting me.
Yeah, I thought that was very well done in terms of like stress and anxiety inducing watching the episode. Like, this just feels uncomfortable and sketchy. Didn't feel right.
Yeah, it was very very weird, but I enjoyed it. Like I said, it was a strong start to this entire season. I just wish they had continued that, but yeah, this was a fun episode. I love the main character because I watched her in Schitt's Creek, and then I didn't even realize it was actually her. Like she looked so familiar this entire fucking time, and I'm like, I know that girl. I've seen her like multiple times. Where the fuck do I know her from? And then I was like, oh wait, what? That was actually her.
Yeah, the nice reveal at the end.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
And I also thought this was a fun sort of exploration of the sketchiness of AI art as well. Like,
Yeah.
particularly with the Salma Hayek character, because the Salma Hayek that's in the Streamberry show is not actually Salma Hayek. It's an
Salma Hayek.
AI
It's just her AI
generative
features.
art of herself. That's why they can pump out the
Yeah,
shows
it
so
was-
quickly. It's like, yeah, that's... I don't know how I feel about that. Like, we've seen that happen in movies recently with, like, the Star Wars one when...
When they did Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
And Peter Cushing's. I think they did it with Peter Cushing too.
yeah.
So yeah, it was very weird just to see them kind of go that way, but it was fun. Like it was a really fun ride. And Selma Hayek, I mean, Jesus, she was hilarious.
And, yeah, like, that's sort of exactly what I expect from a Black Mirror show. Like, stuff like that where it's exploring contemporary tech issues but making them sort of dark and twisted, but then this one also was very comedic as well.
Yeah, 100%. It was very interesting to see. Like it makes you really think. You know, just anyone could be doing that now. You know, like what if somebody watches this and they're just like, oh, you know what? That's a great idea. Maybe we should look into doing something fun like that, just as a shits and giggles kind of thing.
And yeah, like you just before a video, like if you saw a video online, like if it was a video, it had to be the person. Whereas now, it's not so much. Like before, you only really had to worry about Photoshop, where photos were altered, but now they
Now
full deepfake videos. So it's like maybe.
Yeah, it's crazy to see what AI technologies come through now and what they're doing with it now. It's absolutely bonkers.
And it's only so early into that tech as well. Like there's still so much potential for that technology.
Yeah, it really makes you think. Like I said, like this might. I don't know. I'm not about conspiracy theories, but I mean, The Simpsons predicted a lot of things, and so I mean, maybe Netflix and Black Mirror are predicting a lot of things now too.
Well, yeah, some of the previous seasons have been eerily similar, like the episode Metalhead with the robot dog that we get a flash of later in this season.
I think I watched part of that or something.
They
I feel like
have you seen the Boston Dynamics robot dogs?
yes, yes, and they're like the real life version of those things.
They look
It's
100
crazy.
exactly like the Metalhead dogs. I was like, don't like, not a fan.
That's that's creepy.
Some of the other Easter eggs I spotted when I went and paused on those Streamberry screens were there's an episode on there called Finding Rittman, and Colin Rittman is a character from Bandersnatch, the sort of choose your own adventure Black Mirror episode. And he's played by Will Poulter, and the whole show is he's like a game developer, but at the end, depending on what path you chose, he goes missing. So
Oh, okay.
the Finding Rittman show on Streamberry
That
is
makes
obviously
sense.
like a documentary trying to find him.
That's funny.
And then we also see a documentary on there called The Callow Years about the Prime Minister Michael Callow, played by Ron Kinnear from the very first episode of Black Mirror, the pig.
The pig one. Yep.
So yeah, like episode 1 I thought was one of the stronger episodes of the season, but my favourite episode was episode 2, Loch Henry, a sort of an interesting story where it was kind of like a modern myth ghost story type thing, like local myth being explored.
Yeah, it was fun.
What did you think of this episode?
I liked it. It was a really fun kind of episode. I didn't really know where it was going at first. I didn't like the girl in the beginning of the show. She was really annoying to me, and she seemed kind of extra.
That's because she's American, just like you.
Wow. You know what? That's 2 strikes against you today. Just let's keep it going. Um, and I'm not that extra. You're the one who has the fancy chair, so clearly not extra. But yeah, no, she just she seemed kind of, I don't know, like everything seemed kind of beneath her or something. I don't know. She sounded like she just seemed like she was snubbing her nose at a lot of things going on and stuff, and then she wanted everything to go like her way versus exploring like her partner's ideas and stuff like that. So
To be fair, her partner's idea was terrible.
I don't know. I was kind of interested in eggs.
Of course, you would want to watch the Eggman documentary, you weirdo.
I mean, whatever. I like weird shit. I can't help it. Pepsi, where's my jet?
And we mentioned sort of references from episode 1. The title of this one was also mentioned as a documentary in episode 1, which as soon as it popped, I was like, wait a second, Loch Henry, wasn't that in the last episode? And when I went back and watched it, yes, it was.
Yeah, it's like the only one that really sticks out because it's the only one that's featured, which is so weird that they would just go with like that one particular one and then not do anything else afterwards.
I also liked the music in this episode as well, kicking off with a Baby Give It Up song.
I love that song. I think I texted you that when I was watching it. I was just like, this episode's great. It's starting with like the best soundtrack ever.
And then later they had a cover of Hilltop Hood's Nosebleed section as well. I was like, nice. Aussie band represent.
Of course.
And then in terms of themes, what did you think this episode was exploring?
Well, originally I didn't know what to expect from it. I thought they were just going on the egg hunt, essentially. But then it turned into like, trying to figure out about this mass murder or whatever, which is kind of a fun kind of play on it because obviously everybody and their mother is obsessed with true crime things now because that's a thing. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, this is where I got this is Netflix sort of being self-deprecating and making fun of themselves with. I thought this was like a commentary on their obsession with true crime. In particular, the more disturbing, the better. and also they
Yeah.
have no regard for the impact that these documentaries and series may have on victims, like we saw with Dharma, that apparently annoyed quite a few people.
Yeah, I feel like they played it safe. They didn't. Well, obviously, it's not based on like a true story or anything like that. But I feel like it was a fun kind of ease into what was happening. I don't know. It was. You didn't really know where it was going. Like it sounded like they were exploring things, and then it kind of went a little bonkers when I didn't expect what way to go.
Keep saying you didn't expect where it was going. I
did.
was suspicious of that mother for ages before they revealed.
Okay, well, I happen to think little old ladies are very polite, and if she's being that nice and dedicated to helping the kids try and, bring justice for her dead husband, then I think she was just doing a nice thing. But
Yeah, I was like,
whatever.
I was immediately questioning her, and there was a point where I was like, wait, were her and the father involved in these murders somehow? And then turns out they were. The Bergerac tapes contained films of the murders, and they were basically serial killer trophies hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was more suspicious of the bartender guy, like their friend, because he just seemed way too like excited when they came back and like wanting people to like come back to the town and everything like that.
Because his pub was dying.
I understand that, but you never know. He could have been hiding in plain sight, just like Mama Bear. But I mean, whatever. And then I kind of got suspicious about his drunk dad too. But then I realized that guy just could not function properly. So there's no fucking way in hell. But yeah, no, I just know I didn't want to accept the mom was a crazy mass serial killer because she was just so sweet at first.
Yeah, she was potentially the most fucked up of them all.
She really was. She was absolutely bonkers with her little mask.
That mask. And the fact that they, like, even when they showed that mask hanging on the wall, I was like, that's a weird thing to hang on the wall.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't fit their decor at all.
Mask. No, it was just like a nice country town or like, country cottage or whatever. And then you have like this random mask.
Random
like,
red frilly masquerade mask. I was like, what the hell is going on?
It was something.
Yeah, like, I loved this episode. I loved that twist, even though, like, I sort of was wary of her early on. I still was like, oh, shit, they actually went there.
It's because you always try to blame the old ladies. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, creepy old ladies. Suspect.
Creepy
Watch
old
them.
ladies. Just saying. I'm going to be on the lookout now.
As an American, what did you think of the language in this episode?
So it is very, very strange for me. Like, since I've known you, I've had to mold myself and become almost like numb to certain things because y'all say things just like all the time. Like, yeah, I've become numb to it. But like, if I was looking at this and not knowing you, I'd have been like, holy crap! Like, I can't watch this because previously it was hard for me to watch Game of Thrones because they threw certain words out there like all the time, like it was nothing.
Yeah,
so,
they do that in this episode.
Yeah, so they did, and I was just like, now I'm just like, it's whatever, and like I understand it's like a cultural thing, but yeah, it's still kind of shocking when I hear it just randomly get thrown out.
Yeah,
here and there.
I'd be interested to see how this episode goes down in the US because they drop the C-bomb often,
a lot,
and
yeah,
prominently. Like, it's not muttered under people's breath. Like, it is shouted at people. I was like, oh.
In your face. Yeah, and like I said, it's weird because I had to kind of grow accustomed to it after watching Game of Thrones because Tyrion like throws it around a lot, and so it's not as harsh of a thing for me to hear, but it's still kind of shocking because it's not something that generally people say on a daily basis all the time here.
Yep. And yeah, you've also got to. There's also like has to be a bit of a warning for this episode too, for like suicide trigger warning. Like, if that's something that is not great for you, maybe skip this episode.
Yeah, there are parts of this episode that are really heavy that deal with a lot of like coming to terms with things, I guess, and like having to accept things. So So it is not. It's not for everybody, but it is interesting. It's a pretty good episode.
Mm-hmm. And then I love, like, at the end too, of course, Streamberry want to develop the documentary that they made into a drama series. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. This poor...
Yeah, like him not knowing.
This poor kid has gone back to his hometown, finally, like, got all of these accolades, but he lost everything in the process.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's such a, he looks so defeated too. Like, yeah, I made it. Like, I got my documentary, I got my 5 minutes of fame, but at what cost kind of moment.
Yeah, well, he found out his parents were crazy serial killers.
Literally.
And lost his girlfriend at the same time.
Everything's a lie. Yeah, just complete lie.
Yeah. Not the funnest. And then there were some very fun Easter eggs in this episode as well. During the BAFTA awards ceremony, when he gets his award for the documentary, one of the other documentaries that's up for nomination, it was a reference to San Junipero, a previous Black Mirror episode.
Oh, okay.
As soon as they said it, I was like, oh, wait, that's a previous Black Mirror episode, so that was cool. And also, when they're editing the documentary and we see the back of her laptop screen, she has a sticker for Waldo, the blue cartoon dog that in a previous Black Mirror episode ended up running for president in season 2.
Yeah, that was
or prime minister.
That's an episode that I watched half of too. Yeah, it was weird. It was a very mouthy kind of character, whatever.
Yeah, it was like, weird like AI thing as well. Where.
Mm-hmm.
And then she also had a sticker for Tuckersoft, which is the game developer from Bandersnatch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, lots of like cool subtle references where if you've seen the full series, you'll pick up on little bits and pieces like that.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, the San Junipero one was very like obvious. It's like, oh yeah, cool. And yeah, like I said, that was easily my favorite episode of the season, even though it wasn't your traditional Black Mirror storytelling. Like, I guess it kind of had tech in it because it was like video cameras and stuff, but it also really wasn't. It was local legend myth.
Yeah. It was like superstitious kind of thing, like trying to figure out like the urban legend kind of story lines and stuff.
Yep. And then we moved on to episode 3, the most Black Mirror-esque episode of the season, called Beyond the Sea, starring Aaron Paul, Josh Hartnett, and Kate Mara. What did you think of this one?
So this episode, even though I think it's one of the longest episodes.
It's easily the longest.
It is the longest. It's actually probably my favorite episode out of this entire season. It was a really fun kind of concept, and it made you think what technology, how far they've come with technology, and what they could do next. I hadn't seen Josh Hartnett in like anything in been forever, so seeing him in this kind of a role was very interesting to me. And then, the girl from Smile,
Kate Mara.
Yeah, that's her name. She was in Smile, yeah.
Don't think so.
I think so. Was it the same girl? I don't know. I know she's in something that was like a horror movie. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I liked seeing her in this role, and then obviously the guy from Breaking Bad. So.
Mm-hmm. Who, fun fact, is
fun.
the only person to appear in 2 separate episodes of Black Mirror.
Oh, really? Oh, I did not know that.
Because he did a random cameo in, can't remember what it was, one of the previous episodes, but he only agreed to do that cameo if it didn't prevent him from doing a full episode at a later point, which was this one.
Oh, is there like an unspoken rule where you can't do more than one episode or something like that?
Well, just because they're supposed to be separate stories, like they're not technically connected, it would be weird if someone is in multiple episodes.
That's very true. No, this episode was really fun. I really like the whole concept of, they're in the space station, but they have replicas, is what I guess they call them here. And it's really fun to see that.
Especially like at the moment where we're sort of NASA and everything are trying to get to Mars, like that sort of idea is something that would really make it a lot more feasible for people to be like, yeah, I'll take the one-way trip to Mars if I can teleport back and still have some form of connection with my family.
Yeah, like have your subconscious just like completely transfer over. It's really weird. It was a fun concept though. I really enjoyed it. There were parts of it that were like really like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened kind of moments. Super intense. But they touched on a lot of cool concepts and weird ideas and stuff like that. So I liked it a lot.
At what point did you suspect something fishy was going on with the Aaron Paul character?
I think it was, I don't know. He was weird from the beginning, honestly. I didn't actually like him at all at first. I thought he was just a jerk.
Yeah,
he was a real asshole.
there is a lot of like character growth in this episode.
Yeah, so I absolutely hated him at first, and then I really felt bad for him afterwards because he really was trying for his family just to like do what he thought was best for his family and his own opinions, and then when he started to actually like listen to his wife, it was just almost too late, you know.
Yeah, the moment where I noticed there's something weird going on here was they're sitting at the dinner table eating dinner, and he didn't even have a plate in front of him. I was like, what the heck? Is he a robot?
I didn't even catch that. I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, so they all sit down to eat dinner,
God.
and the wife and the son have plates of food, obviously.
Dinner plates.
And he's sitting at the table
But
like
he
he's
doesn't.
sitting down for dinner with them, but there's nothing in front of him.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck is going on here?
That's so weird.
And then a couple of seconds later, it cuts to him in the space station. I was like, okay, there's some weird shit going on right now.
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't catch on to that at all, but that totally makes sense now.
Yeah, so it turns out, yeah, they are clone robot things that they call replicas. So it basically gives them an option to have some form of physical body on Earth still with their family while they embark on this 6-year mission into space.
Yeah, it was a lot. That was a hell of a lot.
Yeah, which is very much what would happen if you sign up for that Mars mission. Like, currently with the technology we have, that's a one-way trip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They can get you to Mars, but they cannot get you back.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, like, if they ever decided to develop that kind of technology, or like if it's already like possibly in development, we just don't know it.
Yeah, I guess it's hard with the human brain.
Black Mirror predicting the future.
We still have no idea basically how the human brain works. Like, they still do like CT scans and stuff and MRIs when people are like, they show them pictures and they're like, oh, okay, that picture lit up that part of the brain. I guess that's what that part of the brain does. It's like, does it though?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to dive into, but I don't know. I'd kind of still be nervous about playing with that kind of shit. Like, I don't know. I'd be afraid it'd have a mind of its own, kind of like Stepford, like the Stepford Wives kind of moment or something.
And then we get a nice, with the Josh Hartnett character, pretty hectic moment with the sort of home invaders who, they were giving me very Charles Manson vibes.
Yes. Also, I had a question when I was watching it. Is that Kieran Culkin? Macaulay Culkin's brother?
I don't think so.
Okay, because he looked exactly like him from when he was in Scream 4. And so I thought it was him, but I could have been horribly mistaken. It just looked just like him. So
I'm not sure. I'm checking the cast now, but I
okay.
don't think so. It was Rory Culkin.
Moments. Okay, see, it was one of the brothers. I win. Go me.
Huh. I didn't even know there was a Rory Culkin.
They all have the same face.
Yep. Brother of Macaulay and Kieran.
Okay, there we go. See, yeah, I win. Yay.
Good spot.
That was my haha moment for the day, and
yeah, he was giving off big Charles Manson vibes.
Yeah, he played a great cult leader, in my opinion. Like he he was definitely for his cause. Nothing was going to stop him and his followers. But that was a really gut wrenching scene. What they did to Josh Hartnett's character was just absolutely horrible. Honestly, like, doesn't matter if you're a robot or not. Nobody should have to like go through that and witness that kind of shit. And it was insane.
And yeah, you mentioned not liking Aaron Paul's character to begin with. What did you think of Josh Hartnett's character and the character progression throughout this episode?
It's like they did a role reversal almost. So like, you know, Aaron Paul became like really like caring and like, you know, I want to help him out. I want to, you know, maybe he just needs a little, you know, nice gesture to help him cope and stuff like that. And then Josh Hartnett just ends up taking advantage and being an asshole, essentially, in my eyes. So it's very weird to see how they just kind of almost swapped roles, and you know, it's kind of sad the way that it all ended up, but I still really enjoyed it.
Which kind of makes me think, like, when they do that whole process of, oh, you can use my neural link to go back and get some time on Earth, I wonder if that, like, messed up their brains, because they were, like,
It could have.
Swapping things, like, they kind of lost themselves, so they became a mixture of each other, and Josh Hartnett's character starts using his painting skills as an excuse to keep going back, and just turns into this complete sneaky, slimy prick, really.
Yeah, I actually had a moment where I thought it was going to get actually a little bit worse than, I mean, not that it didn't get worse, but it
divulged into full-on family murder, and you're thinking it could have got worse.
So there was a point where he was like rushed back to do that fake investigation outside on the spaceship.
Yep, I thought he was going to launch his ass into space.
So, okay, so I actually thought in my head that Josh Hartnett was going to switch their tags, their link tags, and that he was going to make Aaron Paul's character go into his dead robot body and be stuck there.
Okay, that would have worked too.
And he was just going to like go back and just lay out his life and pretend to be the original guy. Like, that's how I saw that going down in my head, was like, he's going to be a real asshole and just leave him stuck in like almost like this purgatory, like, you know, mindless kind of moment. But
I thought he was just going to leave him outside in space.
Darker. That could have happened too.
Which they teased pretty heavily.
There were so many... Yeah, there were so many possibilities with the way that this could have gone, because he really did have like the ball in his court for like in several different moments, where he was just like entrusted with like these kind of things that I would normally not entrust somebody in that state to have.
And I loved that they sort of teased that whole taking off the tag thing earlier in the episode as well, where you see Aaron going out for the first time and he takes off his watch, he takes off something else, and then he takes off the tag and sits the tag in the tray, and I was like, okay, here we go. He's going to steal this tag now.
Yeah,
and he did.
That's
and
the only thing that was going through my mind.
What a messed up thing to do.
Yeah, it was, that was fucking terrible. Oh my God. Like, I understand, like, now, you know, they can be rotten together, essentially. Like, they can just hate each other and for oblivion in space.
Yeah, there's no, like, no teleporting back now. Like,
yeah,
neither of them are going to want to go back now.
Right, and it's super sad because they just have each other now, which is terrible because now they hate each other probably.
Very much. So yeah, this was another really solid episode. My only critique of this one was it was very slow to begin with. Like, we spent a lot of time
it took a while to get to the point.
A lot of time with the characters just kind of going backwards and forwards between the spaceship and Earth, and like slowly building the relationships between the wife and the two astronauts. Like, okay, we probably could have sped this up. Did we need like an hour and a half, hour 40 for this episode?
Yeah, like I didn't need their workout like physicals every time that they went to go have one, you know, like that was just a lot of extra fluff, I think. But you know, it was still a really fun episode, and like I said, it was one of my favorite episodes. It was just really long to watch.
And yeah, it was easily the most Black Mirror episode of the season, so that has to elevate it up a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And then we move into what I would say was the weakest episode of the season, episode 4, Maisie Day, starring Zazie Beetz, basically focusing on the absolute horrid nature of paparazzi.
Yeah, this was a meh episode for me. I just didn't.
It was such a weird twist.
It was, and it was kind of. I felt really rushed. I feel like they didn't know what they wanted to do with this episode because it seemed like it could have gone in a lot of directions, and it was just kind of a mess for me.
Especially coming off
easily my least favorite.
Coming off an hour and a half episode to then get one that's barely 40 minutes. Like, this feels real quick.
It did, and honestly, it's one of those episodes that I almost forgot what it was like. Like, I almost forgot about this episode. That's how unmemorable it was. Because in my head, like, as we were just discussing the other ones, I remember, like, the last episode, but I almost forgot about this episode and what I watched because it was just not memorable for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so... I know, it felt like a very accurate portrayal of paparazzi at times, but yeah, it just... very horror-esque, but, yeah, unmemorable. The werewolf looked decent. It was cool. It was very violent. And it had a tragic ending, but that was about it.
Yeah, the whole episode just kind of felt, like you said, like rushed and kind of forced almost. Like, you know, we've seen things like that before in other shows. Like, it's nothing new. But I appreciate, like, the idea of, like, the paparazzi driving people to, like, do crazy things probably and stuff like that. And, you know, if you're a celebrity, obviously you're having a rough go of it with certain parts of your life and aspects of that, but yeah.
And yeah, like there was no sort of tech angle for this one either. Like no sci-fi angle. It was just a horror creature story. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it was weird. They could have done a lot more. Like, I don't know. I feel like they could have just done a lot more with this episode. It was very jumping all over the place, and nothing was cohesive in it.
Yeah, definitely the weakest of the season for me. And then we close out with episode 5, Demon 79. Very vintage horror movie tone to this one, with sort of retro TV production as well. I liked this one in terms of like the themes of sort of racism and violent fantasies and stuff, but also not a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. You know, it wasn't by far the best episode. I do appreciate the nostalgia feel of it though. It was really fun for me to watch that and like see the different like graphics and stuff like that, and it just reminded me of like the campy like 70s 80s style movies. But I mean, it wasn't the best, and I think that I don't know, for some reason this episode was just really hard for me to watch all the way through. Like I stopped it and then came back to it because it just didn't keep me entertained as much as I wanted it to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was the most like British of the episodes as well, where we see a random store clerk having to commit 3 human sacrifices in 3 days to prevent the apocalypse. Again, sort of had a very comedic tone as well, which was it's such a weird combination to do this sort of horror storytelling, but then also be very comedic as well. It's like, this is strange. We've seen that work with
it didn't fit.
Sort of Shaun of the Dead and stuff like that, but this one was neither full comedy, full horror. It was kind of a weird in-between that didn't hit.
Yeah, it was strange. Parts of it were good, and I liked parts of it, but then other parts of it, I just was kind of like, okay, that's the direction you went with this? You know?
I feel like they should have lent into the racism angle a bit more. Like, they lean into it a fair bit, but not as heavily as I thought they could have.
Right. Like, I appreciate the way that she had to find her, like, her sacrifices or whatever, and, like, the rules that went with that and stuff like that. there was a lot of thought to that kind of way of going about things, but at the same time, there were some weird floppy things with it too.
And it had some great Easter eggs in here as well. Like we mentioned earlier, they had the reference to the metalhead robot dogs when we get seeing the like visions of what the politician might do if she doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
Also, the little talisman thing that she picks up, the logo on that is the logo from an episode from season 2 called White Bear.
Okay.
And that logo
Sweet.
is also flipped upside down, and it's on the politician's podium as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
basically that suggests that those previous 2 episodes, that icon represents outside forces causing people to do bad things, like not necessarily evil people. They may have had like this demon or a similar demon might have been influencing them.
From something. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting concept, and I appreciate like the talisman, like keeping track of her sacrifices, and you've got this many left to go, and you only have 4 minutes to do this. By the way, like time is ticking. Let's go.
And what did you think of the demon? I thought when it initially appeared,
I loved
the
it.
voice was so weird. Before it transforms
The voice
into
was
the
weird,
guy,
but I loved it.
the voice was
Yeah.
like this weird nerdy voice. I was like, that's not a demon voice. That's a weird voice. That's a comedy voice.
Yeah, and then when he took human form, it didn't match either. I was like, wait a second, wait, what? But no, I liked the human form of the demon. I think it was a fun little like play and stuff like that. Like I don't know, it just kind of made it look cool.
And like the ending fell flat for me as well. Where
I kind of wanted more.
it initially makes you think, oh yeah, she was just crazy, but then it goes, oh no, everything the demon was telling you was right. So everything's dead now. It's like, okay, weird.
Yeah, here comes the apocalypse, and like we're just gonna walk off into the sunset.
Solid episode, but yeah, not the greatest. Like, it didn't end and make me super excited for a potential season 7. I was going, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Like hopefully if they decide to go forward with a season 7, hopefully this was like a refresh and just like clear the slate. Like we're going to go in a different direction next season and no one's going to know about it or something like that. But it would be cool if they just got back to the roots of what they're known for, I think, moving forward, and not try to branch out into all these other kind of ideas that might be the cool thing now. But I think that, there's some things that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of moment.
Yep. So in terms of a rating for the full season, what would you give Black Mirror season 6?
I'm gonna go with like a 3.5, just because I feel like there were more kind of falls than there were successes in this, and the successes that were there, there wasn't it wasn't super strong. Like the first 2 episodes were super strong, and then the middle episode was just really long. So if it had been a little bit shorter, probably would have been a little bit higher up there.
Yeah, so I gave Black Mirror season 6 3, but it's barely scraping a 3 because those last 3 episodes just really didn't do a lot for me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. It started so strong and it just fell off a cliff.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then if you had to rank the 5 episodes, what order would you put them in?
So 3, 1, 2, 5, 4.
Yep. So I went 2 was my favorite, followed by 1, 3, and 5 and 4. 4 was terrible. Was not good.
Well, like we could have just like gotten rid of 4, and it's weird because the episodes that I have seen of Black Mirror previously were really interesting and strong. I think the last one I watched was where like her boyfriend died and she ordered like the plastic version of him or something, or like the rubberized version of him, and yeah, it was really weird. But that's the kind of thing that I was expecting from this, is like there was going to be some really odd kind of make you question life things, and not every single one of them did that.
So yeah, that's Black Mirror season 6. Thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Corrina on Instagram at Miss Corrina Renee, and you can follow me on social media at JamYaps Media and at Pario Magazine. The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of JamYaps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/JamYapsMedia. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.